What's the moment where you realized you've been doing something the wrong way for years? When I was 5, a Pizza Hut employee told me that the powder on the breadsticks was called fairy dust. Ordered extra fairy dust on my breadsticks until I was around 14. When an employee said, "Do you mean garlic salt?" it still devastates me to realize how obtuse I was. It wasn't very long. But when I was learning to drive, my dad was explaining the rule of thumb regarding a safe distance to be behind the car in front of you. I thought it meant to hold your thumb up, and if your thumb didn't cover the entire car, you were too close to it. When he caught me doing that, he asked me what I was doing. When I explained, he burst out laughing, then considered it, and concluded it wasn't a bad idea but perhaps a bit distracting. We bought a nice liquor cabinet. We got it delivered and noticed it was a bit shorter than we thought. No biggie. 3 years later, we're moving. Lift up cabinet and these beautiful, ornate screw-on legs wrapped in tape and bubble wrap fall off the bottom. Looks so much better now. Until last week, when my father-in-law would make a phone call on his very basic non-touchscreen flip phone. He would open the menu, scroll to the phone icon, open it, hit the soft key for contacts, scroll to the person he wanted to call, press OK, then press the soft key to call. When he mentioned how he preferred his landline because he could just dial the number, I said, "Humor me. Just dial the number and hit the talk button." I've never seen a man so simultaneously grateful and embarrassed. Since the dawn of time, I would pick up the silverware and utensils out of their tray in the dishwasher and put them away in their drawers, then go back and pick up more out of the dishwasher. Then one day I saw my wife lift the tray out of the dishwasher, and I legit stood there with my mouth open. Couple years ago, I was trying to open some toothpaste and had to break the seal of the tube. I used to look for something like a nail to break it. Then, one day, I looked at the pointy end of the cap and thought, what if I could use this to break it? And oh, it did fit and broke it effortlessly. And so did every other tube product I had in the house and their respective cap. My mind was blown. I lived in a house for 6 years, with a bathroom with no shelf or cupboard to put toiletries into. I was very disappointed, and ended up using a windowsill that was way too small to fit everything. Anyway, one day we had a friend over and he asked why we don't have anything in our bathroom cupboard. I was confused, so he showed me. It turns out that the mirror I had been using for 6 years has a hidden compartment behind it. It was a mirrored door to a mounted cupboard on the wall. I was astonished and immediately moved all my stuff from the window into the new space. My friend was baffled that I had never figured it out. There was an obvious gap between it and the wall that I somehow failed to notice. Well, this was a few years ago. I was the director of IT for a very large company. I was given a new cell phone and told to set up my voicemail. I didn't know that when I recorded my name, it would be played to whomever I leave a voicemail for. Well, the name I recorded was Duder 80 for Corporate IT God. I worked there for 4 years, until someone in the hallway referred to me as the Corporate IT God. I was so embarrassed. I own a car with swivel headlights, and it was very nice to have that. Discovered 3 years in that I had never turned on the swivel feature. My name is Ryan. It took me until I was in first grade to realize my name wasn't in the alphabet. My mom had told me my name was in the alphabet, and I felt so lucky. She obviously meant the letters to spell my name were in the alphabet. But nope, it took that long to realize the alphabet didn't go W, X, Ryan Z. When I was a kid, I was told that the paper that came on cupcakes, muffins was edible. I would spend a decade eating them like this, paper and all, until a friend pointed it out. I didn't find out that I was supposed to punch out for lunch until my 3rd job, and even then, it was because a coworker mentioned it in passing that they were clocking out for lunch. Travel frequently for work, and only just noticed that most laptop bags have a strap to place over a rolling suitcase handle. For 20 plus years, I've been saying play it by ear instead of play it by ear. After a lengthy argument and a quick Google search, I was left with my tail between my legs. I owned a light blue-colored microwave for about 3 years that a family member gave me for a housewarming gift. Thought it was cool, never saw a blue microwave before. One night, a buddy asked why I never took the blue plastic wrap off my microwave, then proceeded to peel it off for me. Damn, that bee is silver. Still miss my blue microwave sometimes though. In French, être retard means to be late or to be delayed. When I started to learn English, I assumed that to be retarded meant to be late. I didn't understand why people were laughing when I was saying sorry I'm retarded until someone told me. My family always had a cup next to the bathroom sink, in case you needed to rinse your mouth after brushing your teeth, or maybe get a quick drink of water in the middle of the night. My grandma had the same cup at her house. I used it for years whenever I was thirsty. One day she saw me doing this and said, "Don't use that cup. That's where grandma puts her teeth." When I first got a debit card and would go out to eat at restaurants with my friends, I would leave a cash tip on the table. When I got the receipt to put how much I was paying, I would write down how much money I left on the table. For at least 6 months, I gave double tips to every waitress I had. I was at Crate and Barrel with my girlfriend talking about how it's so weird they don't make tongs so you open them up super wide and then press in. I thought it was odd that they only gave you a super tiny opening. In the middle of me saying this, she just presses the button at the bottom of the tongs I was holding, and I stopped mid-sentence in shame. Realized the multicolored tape measures, glued to the door frames of gas stations, etc., are for identifying robbers, not for measuring yourself as you walk out. I mean, they can be, but that's not why they are there, unless you're the robber. I always thought eggplant tasted itchy, like itchy was a flavor. Like sour or salty. Fed some to my baby and his face turned red wherever the eggplant touched. And I realized we're both just allergic to eggplant, and itchy isn't a flavor. Apparently, the red ring around the bologna is not supposed to be eaten. Not wrong for yours, but I work help desk. And we use a specific terrible piece of software for our support system, IBM Notes. It turns out that for the first 9 months I had been working there, it wasn't set up properly. So I wasn't sending any emails from it at all. No notifications that the ticket went to me. No responses from me. No close notifications. Nothing. Someone noticed this, took a look, and fixed a setting. I immediately sent out over 1,000 emails to everyone in the company. Learned earlier last year, bust a nut isn't an expression for when something hits your nuts, or you land in a way that crushes them. I was 30 when I found out that an event calendar, as I called it, is not a thing and it's an advent calendar. I was 32 when I found out advent is not short for adventure. I used to pull my pants down all the way at the urinal. Not 'cause I've been doing something wrong my entire life, but saw it wrong. I'm colorblind and my entire life I thought peanut butter was green until I turned 19. And when I found out it was brown, my mind was blown. It took so long because no one really talks about the color of things like that. Not really doing something, but I completely thought that the White House was in Washington, the state, until I was like 23. It's a hole in my knowledge I can neither explain nor defend. I have since visited and confirmed it's in DC. Found out I was lighting incense wrong. Boyfriend and I got a bunch to add to our collection of nice smells and we would light them. And they would just start a little inferno. Convinced we were buying cheap garbage incense, we stopped using them. I proceed to buy a different brand in a hope those would work. I test light and same thing, it just goes up in an inferno. Roommate informs us, "You are supposed to blow them out once they catch." Oops. I was dating an Asian woman some years ago, and when we got Chinese takeout, she completely unfolded the box and laid it flat like a plate. She said that was by design, and for the life of her could never understand why her friends always scooped it out onto another plate when the box was the plate. I now do this all the time and it weirds people out. After moving to a new city, I went to the laundromat and the Korean lady working was yelling at me about something I couldn't understand. After some pantomime, it became clear that she was upset. I was putting in the wrong detergent, but it was the same kind I have been using for 8 years. Since moving away to college and behind. Turns out I've been washing my clothes with only fabric softener for nearly a decade. They always smelled good, so I never really thought about it. Not my proudest moment. That you do, in fact, need to disassemble your laundry dryer and clean the lint out from underneath the drum. I'm 31 and never knew this. No one ever said anything. Never saw anyone do this. Crappiest thing is that my parents also learned this the hard way and never bothered to give me a tip when I bought my first dryer. Luckily, the wife and I discovered the lint buildup when changing the rollers. I said to my parents, wow, it really builds up in there. And they were like, oh yeah, you need to do that like once a year. What? Cock guns. Everyone says that you're supposed to pull it towards you. But I saw a Reddit comment saying that they're designed to be pushed away instead. My boss looks at me funny for doing it, but it's exponentially cleaner and tighter. Last month was the first time I discovered lint rollers were peelable. Literally sat there for a minute to take that in. I'm 20. One day I used the key fob to remotely start my dad's car. 2 years and he didn't realize he had this handy little function. I used to fill the kettle by the spout. My parents have always done it this way. I thought the center part was mainly for decoration, but not functional. I don't know why I never questioned this. One day I bought a new tea kettle and my husband was like, WTF. What is inside this? And with great ease open the center, pull out a manual with instructions and whatnot. I was drinking dirty paper water for like 2 weeks. I taught myself how to play clarinet. 6 months later, someone told me that I'd been playing with the mouthpiece upside down. I ate mangoes with the skin on for a while before I learned you're supposed to peel them. My wife and I have this ceiling fan light in our bedroom in the house we moved into 2 years ago. It has a remote control for the fan and lights. About a year and a half ago the lights suddenly stopped working. The fan works well and we didn't have a ton of money, so we've just lived with lamps in the room. Always being frustrated with how damn dark it is. I was scrolling some other thread on Taifu a few weeks ago, and the top post was a guy talking about how his light stopped working years ago. And then he found out that it was just dimmed, which you do by holding down the button on the remote. It sounded so much like our fan I went and tried it. Dimmed? I didn't realize I had to brush the back of my teeth, as well as the front, until I was 15, had 9 fillings and a root canal. Back in the early 2010s, my boyfriend and I had a PlayStation that we used for Netflix etc. since we didn't have a smart TV. The controller was on such a short cord that we would always have to get up from the couch to change the program or push any buttons. My boyfriend also used to have to sit on the floor, up close to the TV to play his video games, since the cord was so short. One day my brother came to visit. We put something on Netflix and got up to use the remote like we always did. My brother proceeds to unplug the controller, hands it to us, and says, you realize this is a wireless controller, right? We are dumbfounded. Why would there be a cord coming from it? Turns out that's just to charge our wireless controller. Mind blown.